The following books, stories, plays, poems, or limericks you will hear on Right Time Radio are the intellectual property of the writers and authors mentioned. Any copying, recording, or reproduction of this work is strictly prohibited without the express written consent of the author. The content of this show is the individual expression of the author and does not necessarily reflect the views of the owner of this radio station.
It's the right time for Right Time Radio. I'm Tom Bruno.
And I'm Lynn Donovan.
Today we are privileged to have Sandra Miller-Linhart back in the studio with us.
Yeah, welcome, Sandy.
Hi.
She has another great story for us. It's kind of touching. I don't think we'll cry as much as the last one you read.
No, I hope not.
And we had somebody read the last one because none of us could handle it.
No, we're all too much saps.
Lynn, why don't you give an introduction about Sandy and what she's done?
Tom, did you know that Sandra Miller-Linhart was born in Lander, Wyoming on a warm summer day in a hospital which has since been turned into a mental institution?
No coincidence?
Well, most likely holds no correlation, probably. She has 5 daughters, 7 grandkids, and currently resides in the beautiful mountains of Colorado. Miss Linhart's writing is informed by many of her observations as a military wife of over 20 years.
I know.
Thank you for serving.
I know, that's a tough job.
Serving
That
and
is,
serving.
hell is home on the home front too, right?
Yep.
Sandy is a member of the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, that's called SCBWI, and the Military Writers Society of America, MWSA. Her award-winning titles include Daddy's Boots, Mama's Boots, Mr. Gray Got's a Friend, Oh My, What Happened, Squat, Stackable Page, Don't Label Me, and Pinkosaurus Max. Now, there's a whole bunch more of her books. Those are just the ones she let us tell you about. You can get her books here locally in Canyon City at Kaleidoscope's Inspirations, which is on 5th Street across from the library. Or you can go online and you can get them at sandstar.books.com or goodollamazon.com.
Good old Amazon.
Good old Amazon.
All right.
Yep.
And now
So welcome, Sandy.
Well, thank you.
we are going to hear The Burdens We Carry, read by the author herself, Sandra Miller-Linhart.
Mm-hmm.
Amy became aware she was no longer in her bed. She found herself on a plateau of gray nothingness. Around her stood people of all different shapes and sizes, but all were charcoal gray from head to toe. Even their clothing appeared colorless. She was taken in by the vastness of the plateau and the infinite number of people she saw. Amy looked down at herself. She, too, echoed the monochrome of the others, her skin as dull as the garment she wore. The people gazed ahead with anticipation on their faces. Amy's eyes followed theirs, and feelings of wonder and hope overcame her when she saw a golden glow on the horizon. Her heart beat faster, and she held back the urge to run as fast as she could toward the source of the beacon. Amy took a step forward and felt heavy weight upon her back. She noticed when others took that first step forward, a brightly colored bag appeared on their backs. The others grabbed the opening of the bag as it slung over their shoulders and trudged, burdened but blissful, toward the beautiful horizon. How can they walk with such pressure? Amy thought. I wonder what it is. She removed the bag from her shoulder, pleased to see it was yellow. She always enjoyed the color yellow. A golden cord kept the contents from spilling out. But Amy had no problem opening the bag. She peered inside and saw glowing bricks of gold. She picked one up. No, it wasn't real gold of earthly fame. It was merely a heavy golden brick. And man, it was a burdensome load. Amy began to cry. A man walking by stopped to the sound of her sobs. Please, miss, don't cry. Is there anything I can do to help? I don't know you, do I? Amy asked through her tears. The man put down his brilliant blue bag and held out his hand. My name is Paul. Tell me, what can I do to help? You seem so lost and afraid. I am afraid. You see, I have all these bricks to carry, and I'm unsure if I can do it. I'm so afraid I won't make it. I feel so alone. Would it help if I carried that brick for you? Would it lessen the burden? Yes, Paul, I think it might. Amy handed the brick to Paul, and as their skin touched, a feeling of love and security washed over her. Her heart felt less heavy as Paul opened his bag and placed Amy's brick on the top. As he closed his bag, Paul looked at Amy with love and gratitude. It pleases me to have helped you, miss. Thank you for allowing it. Thank you, Paul, Amy said, as she picked up her own bag, flung it over her shoulder, and headed toward the light. She had walked quite a bit before the bag felt burdensome once again. She looked ahead at the light, which didn't seem to be getting any closer. Despair washed over her. Amy sat down and cried once more. An old lady passing by stopped and sat down next to Amy. My dear child, you look distraught. Please, tell me what's wrong. Oh, it's nothing. I don't mean to hold you up, ma'am. Please, continue on your way. Friends call me Mabel, 'cause it's my name, you see, said Mabel. Now you just wipe those tears from that pretty little face of yours and come out with it. I need to sit a spell any old how. Amy wiped her face with the back of her hand. She examined the old woman sitting in front of her. Mabel wore deep caverns in her face from years of life and love. Her watery eyes held a story of their own. It's just, I don't think I can make it. I feel so desperate, and the way is so far. I want so much to continue, but it's just too much. Oh, is that all? Well, why didn't you say so? Mabel reached over and opened Amy's bag. She took the top brick from Amy's bag and placed it into her own scarlet bag. That should help, she said. And with a swift motion, Amy swung her own bag onto her back and resumed her trek toward the glowing horizon. Amy stood and picked up her bag, which was considerably lighter. She thought she could make it now. In fact, she knew she could. It wasn't long before Amy's bag dug into her back. She stopped walking at once, threw the bag down. How was she ever supposed to achieve her goal if things kept happening to her? She became incensed. Why did she have to deal with this? Why her? Nobody else seemed to be in pain. She watched the other souls making their way toward her goal, her reward. It's not fair, she screamed into the crowd. People stopped and gaped at her. Don't look at me that way, she shouted. You people have no right to walk without pain. Look at me. Look at my pain. You have no right. I tell you it's not fair. A little boy held out his hand to Amy. Give me what causes you pain, he said. I am young. I can handle it. Amy was so angry she threw that brick at him, but in one deft movement, the boy caught the brick and tucked it neatly away in his purple bag and smiled. Thank you, he said, as he continued on his way. But Amy still steamed with anger. She wanted to punch someone, anyone. Then she felt a warm hand upon her shoulder. Amy turned around. A kindly old man stood with his hand outstretched. That much anger will make a soul sour. You need to relieve yourself of it. Come on. Hand it over before your heart turns to stone and all hope is gone. In silence, Amy dutifully grabbed the topmost brick and handed it to the man. Her anger dissipated. Her heart felt light once more. The pain in her body disappeared. She was ready to continue.
Lifetime Radio, and we'll be back after this commercial.
Important thing to know about the Ten Commandments is not the list, but the love. The law of love underneath the list. The Ten Commandments are personal. They express the values of the God that Jesus teaches us to call Father.
Dr. Michael Ziegler, this week on The Lutheran Hour.
The Lutheran Hour is brought to you each week by St. John's Lutheran Church. Listen Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. on 1400 KRLN.
This is a public service announcement test from TakeMeFishing.org to determine if you need a fishing license and boat registration before heading out on the water. Let us begin. Are you a bear? Do you have a beak? Do you have plumage? Please tell me you answered no, which means you need to get a fishing license and have your boat registered, because it helps local conservation efforts protect the very natural resources you enjoy boating and fishing in for generations to come. Do your part at TakeMeFishing.org.
KRLN weather, sunny, warm, and breezy today with an isolated shower possible. High today around 85. Mostly cloudy and cooler tonight, a 30% chance of showers. Tonight's low near 46. Mostly cloudy and cooler tomorrow, 60% chance of afternoon thunder showers with a high around 73. 45 our low this morning after a high of 87 yesterday. We had a trace of rainfall. Now at the weather station, we have 70 degrees.
Radio 1400 KRLN.
Welcome back to Right Time Radio. Today we're listening to The Burdens We Carry by Sandra Miller-Linhart. And Sandy is reading this herself, which as we get back into it, I just want to say it's really neat because the voices that were in your head when you wrote this are being conveyed onto the by you reading it. So here we are, The Burdens We Carry.
Amy picked up her bag and noticed there were only 3 bricks left. Her burden felt lighter, manageable even. She might be able to make it to her goal so very soon. She swung the bag onto her back and practically skipped on her way, leaving the other souls in her wake. But as she passed them, she noticed something strange. The people walking along beside her, the people she hurried past, glowed with a soft yellow light. She glanced down at her own skin. It answered back in monochrome. Amy looked far ahead and saw the souls way up there, almost beamed with the golden light, much like the horizon. She stopped in her tracks. Maybe something was wrong. Maybe she should be turning golden too. Maybe she'd walked too fast and hadn't given the light ahead a chance to soak through her skin. Is anything wrong? Amy turned to see a woman about her own age, standing a few feet away. No, I don't think so anyway. I was just thinking that maybe I should have walked slower. Maybe I didn't do this the right way. What do you think? The woman observed the golden horizon. Amy noticed a golden glow emitted from the woman's skin. She felt a pang of jealousy. The woman looked into Amy's eyes and smiled. I know what you're thinking, she said. You have doubts about your trip, about your destination, about your origins. You also feel that you should be this golden color, that you deserve to glow too. How do you know that? Amy asked. Because I feel that way too. I have doubts and moments of jealousy, but I think I figured out a way to work through these. The woman held out her hand to Amy. Please, let me help you. Amy reached into her bag and handed 2 bricks to the woman. Amy felt gratitude to the stranger who wanted to share her burden. After the woman placed Amy's bricks into her own green bag, Amy leaped forward and fiercely hugged the woman. Thank you ever so much. You've been such a blessing to me, Amy said. And thank you, Amy. I've always been here to help you. How did you know my name? Amy looked deep into the eyes of the woman standing before her and recognized her sister, Beth. Beth smiled and said, Now go. You have much ground to cover. She kissed Amy on the cheek. Amy's heart overflowed as she left her sister. She took her yellow bag with only 1 brick and ran as fast as she could toward her goal. She passed people along the way who stood, crying about their own burdens. Amy felt no pity. She watched as others ran to these poor souls' sides to assist in their loads. Amy had no time for that. Her goal was so close, so very, very close. Amy came to her tower of golden beams, the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. She wanted so much to enter. Then her heart lurched when she realized it held nothing of tangible substance, only light. She turned and studied the crowd of souls headed her way. A man walked up beside her, his own bag brimming with burdens, his skin too brilliant to see. She watched as he opened his bag and poured gray sand onto the ground. She saw him throw his orange bag far into the air. Amy sucked in his breath as his orange bag disappeared into the vastness above. She covered her mouth in awe as the man disappeared into the golden tap, becoming one with the light of the goal. Amy stared into her own bag. The solitary brick inside continued to glow. It had yet to turn to gray sand. A woman beside Amy busily poured sand from her own bag. Excuse me. Amy cleared her throat and continued. Please forgive. But do you know why I'm not golden? Why hasn't my brick turned to sand? What have I done wrong? Oh, that's silly, dear. You can't do anything wrong, child, the woman said. Here, let me see. The woman peeked into Amy's bag. Well, dear, where are all your bricks? Amy pointed into the crowd. I gave my bricks to them. Oh, I see. Paul has your fear. See, he's struggling under its weight. No, wait, see, he's overcome your fear. The woman sighed in relief. Amy watched as Paul stood straighter and glowed brighter. The woman looked around some more. There now, I see you've given your despair over to Mabel. What a wonderful woman she is, don't you think? Full of life and vigor. A real down-to-earth woman she is. Wait, I think your despair may have done her in. No, great. Way to go, Mabel. Keep on trucking. See, my dear, nothing to fret. Mabel had her own despair to overcome first, and then she handled yours with ease. The woman finished emptying the sand from her bag. She rolled the bag into a ball and prepared to toss it into the sky. No, wait. Please. Amy was mesmerized by the glow Mabel now emitted and wondered at the calm look on Mabel's face as she walked forward. What, dear? The woman stopped and lowered her hands, still holding her bag. Please. More, was all Amy could muster. Her heart raced and she felt she may have made a big mistake. All right then, if I have to show you from A to Z, we all have our burdens to carry. To you, yours look worse than mine. But look at that woman there. She pointed at a young woman walking toward the light. Her burdens were the same as yours, but her fear, despair, anger, well, all of them actually, stem from cancer. Look at the little boy whom took your pain. His burdens stem from child abuse by the people he loved. Amy searched the crowd, found the little boy on his back. His mouth opened in a silent scream. His eyes watered with tears and his body writhed in pain. Oh my goodness, no, I didn't mean it. He wanted it. He asked to take my pain. He thanked me for it. Didn't they all? The woman smiled. Just because one offers, dear, doesn't make it okay to burden others with your load. Now look at the old man to whom you unloaded your anger. Amy had a difficult time taking her eyes from the little boy, who was now curled up in a fetal position and rocking back and forth on the gray, unforgiving ground. She pulled her eyes away and searched the crowd for the old man. She not as much saw him as heard him. His angry voice carried over the crowd. Get out of my way, you ignorant fool! What do you mean you don't agree with me? How dare you think you know anything, you ignoramus? The man sat on his bag and shook his fist at the others. Hatred blazed on his face. A small girl walked up to the old man and handed him a brick from her bag. The old man stopped shouting, put the girl's brick into his bag, and began walking toward them again. What just happened? Amy asked. That young child gave the old man her love, the only brick one should ever give away, because you see, once you give it to another, one replaces it in your bag. Look, see? You still have your love, even though you gave it away. Amy peeked in to see the one remaining brick in her bag. But why is love a burden? Oh, my dear, you'll have to figure that one out for yourself. Amy looked out across the crowd, searching for someone. Her eyes rested on a beautiful woman about her own age, sitting on a bag and sobbing pitifully. Amy knew her sister struggled with doubt and jealousy. She knew because she had burdened her with them. Amy's eyes searched for the little boy. He now stood where he once lay weak and limp, but his skin glowed a little brighter, and a smile crept onto his worn face. Amy looked at her sister, the goal so close, but seemingly given up. Amy glanced at the woman beside her. But I didn't give it away. Love, that is. Why forever not, dear? It's the only burden you carry worth giving away. The old lady threw her bag into space and joined her light with the others. Amy stood alone, and she felt more alone than she stood. She opened her bag. Her golden brick mocked her. She peered out into the crowd. The boy had started walking. She ran to him. "Hi, lady," he said weakly. "What brings you back here?" Amy took the brick out of her bag and handed it to the boy, whose face beamed brighter once the brick touched his skin. He placed the brick into his bag and wrapped his arm around Amy's neck. "You are a kind and wonderful being," he said. She didn't feel so kind and wonderful, but she hugged him back just the same. Then she ran to her sister. Amy put her hand into her bag and pulled out another brick. The woman was right. It replaced itself. She handed the brick to her sister. "I am so sorry to have burdened you with my jealousy and doubt." Beth took the brick and smiled at Amy. "Thank you, Amy. I was sitting here feeling it was unfair you got to enter first. But now I see you deserve to go first. You are a wonderful and kind person. But I doubt if I'll ever be good enough to enter." Amy felt her bag. Sure enough, there was yet another brick in it. She handed the second brick to her sister, who took it. She noticed Beth's skin glowed a brighter golden. Then she noticed something else. Her own skin shone just as brightly. Amy pulled Beth up and took her by the hand. "Come on, sis. Let's go there together."
All right. That was The Burdens We Carry by Sandra Miller Linhart. Hey, well, very well read, Sandy. Thank you.
Very much.
Thanks.
Very well.
Love that story.
All right. Before we go to the break, before we do that, can we just ask you, you had an interesting thing that inspired you to write this. And just wanted to, can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah.
And it might be a little controversial, so I'd like everybody to listen with kind of an open mind.
So this story is from my book, The Burdens We Carry, which I'm sorry, Diary of an Unkept Woman, which also was the name of my blog. So I took a lot of excerpts out of my blog. In one of my blog entries, I had mentioned that my daughter, who has sensory processing disorder, could only eat peanut butter, and they had just recently banned peanut butter from the school. And a lot of readers wrote in, said that, basically my daughter could be ostracized, and because their kid apparently was more important than my daughter. And
because they had peanut allergies?
Because they had peanut allergies, and they just really thought it was horrible that I thought it was horrible that peanuts were banned. And they were very vicious and rude, and
they were laying their burdens on you. You were laying your burdens on them. Or?
Yeah, we all do. And so then I sat down and wrote this story because it was just like, my kid is just as important as yours, and if she can't eat anything but peanut butter, why should she, be ostracized?
Yeah.
And I know we all do our own thing for our own kids, but it was there.
Yeah, nobody was understanding each other. What I think is neat about this parable that you just read us is that the way to overcome that is love. And a lot of people just don't give that away as freely as they give away their crap.
Other emotions. Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
What a great way to express those frustrations, though. I really appreciate this story.
Yeah, it's
Thank you.
neat.
Thank you.
Very neat parable. There's a lot of good parable books out there, but this is one of them now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
All right.
the book that you put this in is called what now?
It's called Diary of an Unkept Woman. It's just a compilation of blog entries, poetry, and short stories over the years. It's not children friendly. Most of my books are children friendly because they're children's books, but this one is not.
Sounds like a good read, though.
So I kind of wanted to plug my other two books coming out. Can I do
ahead.
that now?
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
So real soon, eminently, is that the right word?
Eminently.
Is a true crime novel I've written with J.B. King. He's a what was he? Police officer of some sort. Let's see, a patrol? No. I don't know. Anyway, it's called Frozen Tears. It's the Fort Leonard Wood MP killer from 1977. An MP killed a bunch of teenagers, and we wrote this true crime book together. And it's published by Red Engine Press, and it'll be out probably within a month. We're just doing the finalized right now. And then I have another one called Monica Lost. It's a psychological thriller. This one's definitely not for kids, and that should be out in late fall of 2019.
Fun. And we can get those on Amazon and the sandstarBooks.com, and will Kaleidoscope have those too? Or
what is making, because I know you've written children books before.
Yeah.
Are you turning the tide here? Is this something you're trying, or is this something you've always done?
I've always written novels. I've never written children's books, but when I couldn't find a book about deployment, I wrote my first children's book, and ironically, that's the first book that's ever been published.
Okay.
Even though novels
so
are
returning to your first love, then.
I am returning to my first love.
Very good.
Even though I do love my children's books, and they're all illustrated. Most of them are illustrated by a lovely illustrator named Tana Desmond Fox, who happens to be my daughter.
Nice.
So they're beautiful.
And they are very beautiful books. I've seen them as well.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, Sandy. Hey, we're going to take a break. We want to express our thanks to Fremont Regional Hospice, who is generous enough to sponsor our show, and that keeps us on the air. If you want to be a sponsor, please call the radio station here. We'll come back, and after the break, we're going to talk to my co-host, Miss Lynn Donovan, and we're going to get a little excerpt from one of her books that just came out last Tuesday.
Yeah.
So it's very exciting. Here we go.
Attention Fremont County. The Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, WIOA, is looking for projects. Parking lot painting, lawn care, light maintenance, and sprucing up of properties throughout Fremont County this summer. Who can get help? Seniors 65 and older, individuals with disabilities, nonprofits, community, and government agencies. Visit uawioa.com. That's uawioa.com, and fill out the SPP 2019 form or call the Workforce Center at 275-7408 today.
People often ask me how you pick a good realtor. Well, you ask other people. And the only thing you should want to hear is, my realtor made it easy. Oftentimes, people will want a babysitter. I can do that. Often people want to know who would move them. I can do that. Oftentimes, they'll call them, they're hungry. They want a pizza. I can help them do that. I can tell you where to go. So that's how personal we get. And that's the way we want it. And that's really how we do business at Coldwell Banker Fremont Realty.
Hey, this is Drew Frady from the Fremont Community Foundation.
And this is Kitty Romano from Fremont County Communities That Care.
Come join us on June 21st and June 22nd at Centennial Park for the 2019 Royal Gorge Whitewater Festival.
Yes, this year's events will include a CTC Youth Zone, water balls, sporting arrows, and the Racing the River 5K Fun Run.
The ever-popular Weenie Dog Race will be back, as will kayak and raft rodeos, the community raft race, and the Build Your Own Boat Race.
Mark your calendar now for June 21st and 22nd.
See you there?
Yes!
Welcome back to Right Time Radio. Hi, Lynn.
Hey, Tom. What's up, dude?
Well, we're going to introduce your book.
Oh,
so
thank
you can't do this part. I get to do this part.
Yeah. Embarrassing.
Hey, before we get into that, I'm gonna just talk about where you can. You know, if you missed part of this broadcast and you want to hear it again, you can go straight to our website, righttimeradio.my-free website, and go to previous broadcasts. And all those broadcasts are my show last week and the week before. All those are on there. Just go to previous broadcasts and listen to them live, or not live. Recorded.
Well, recorded, yeah.
Yes.
And you can also see who's coming up next week and the next week. I think we've got it up there through all.
Do you know
the end of
who's
August.
up next week?
Yeah, it's Jean. I don't know how to say her last name. You and I met her at that writers' conference we went to.
Yeah, that's right,
And
up in
it's
Colorado
about
Springs.
Stories that she's written about her dog named Zuggy the Pug, and I just cannot wait to meet her again.
Zuggy the Puggy. Yes, it'll be cute. It'll be
Maybe
cool.
she'll bring him in the studio with her.
I don't know. We'll have to ask Carrie if that's allowed.
Of course.
We also have a new. We're live on, not live. We're up on Facebook.
Yes, we
and
are.
And we have just look up Right Time Radio. That's WRITE, Right Time Radio.
Yep.
And at this point in the show, I also want to mention that if you are a local author, that means in the sound of my voice, please submit some stuff.
Yes.
Contact us at righttimeradio@gmail.com. That's
Yes.
WRITE, righttimeradio@gmail.com.
Kathleen Kennedy.
Yes, Kathleen, we heard that
can
you're
we
out
do
there
that?
with
Single
some
out
stuff.
a single person?
I just did.
But also, if you're not real sure if what you have is something we would want, just email us and let us know you're interested, and we'll talk to you about it. We'll look at what you have, and we'll help you make that decision.
Yes. Now, on to Miss Lynn Donovan's news story. This just came out on Tuesday.
It did.
And I'm going to build up to it and then give you the title. It reached number 18 in 2 different categories. The one I'll mention is that was on Amazon. It reached number 18. So the bestseller list, it was really close. In the top 20. Yeah.
On Tuesday.
On Tuesday, it reached number 18.
Yeah.
So you know it's good.
Top 20.
And Lynn's going to read the first part of the first chapter, and she's going to leave you hanging. So you need to go, and now I'm going to tell you what it is.
There's
Get
only
ready
so
with a
much
pen and
time.
paper, because you're going to want to, after you hear this, you're going to want to order it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a story called Heard the Music. And it's spelled Herd because it's from the Bride Herder series. This is a multi-author project that Lynn has done a few series of multi-author projects. And who's the main guy that organizes these?
It
We'll
is
mention him. He's a neat guy.
George H. McVeigh, and he is real well known in the romance department of these books. And he's one of our odd men who can write romance very, very well.
Yes, he's good. So this is book 2 of that series. Is that right?
Correct.
All right. And so once you've listened to this excerpt, gone out and bought the book, read that book, you might want to go back and hit book 1.
Yep.
But this one is definitely a standalone. And Lynn gave us parts and pieces of this in our writers group, and we were really excited about it coming out, and then it got all the way up to number 18, which I'm going to just blow the whistle on her. She was disappointed she didn't get up to number 1.
When you run a race, you want to win.
Yeah. Yep.
And Amazon gives you a carrot. They actually put a little banner on your cover that says number 1 when you reach number 1. So
it's not to dangle in front of you.
Exactly.
Okay.
I wanted that ribbon.
So, Lynn, would you grace us with reading the part of the first chapter of Heard the Music? H-E-R-D, Heard the Music. Go ahead.
But Miss Estes, if you agree to be matched for marriage within 6 months, this dowry will be all yours. Otherwise, it will be donated to the church. You'll be rich, or you'll be penniless. Considering your condition, this is a wonderful opportunity for a deaf girl such as, I don't want the money, Miracle Estes screamed at the banker. I just want my papa back. Miracle jerked awake. The rhythmic bump, bump, bump of the train had lulled her to sleep. That and the fact that she hadn't been able to rest since her papa passed 2 weeks ago. Dumpling's nose nudged under her gloved hand, and his front paw pressed on her knee. Her aged Cocker Spaniel companion had woken her exactly the way he had been trained. She shoved aggressive red spiral hair from her face and looked up from him to find 9 faces staring at her. Esperanza Martinez smiled uncomfortably as if she was embarrassed by Miracle's sudden outburst. Helena paused from reading long enough to look to see that Miracle was all right. She sneezed behind a hanky, shot an uncomfortable look towards Dumpling, and returned her eyes to her book. The sisters, Alice and Abigail Bowen, diverted their eyes as if they had not been burdened or disturbed at all. It was a kind gesture. Miracle touched a gloved knuckle to the corner of her mouth and wiped away cooled drool. The bewildering fog of sleep slowly fading. I'm sorry, I was dreaming. Obviously, Senna Fairbanks' lips barely moved, but Miracle knew what she'd said. Only if it had been just a dream. Papa really was dead. The banker really delivered Papa's will, and the dowry was real. Every cent Papa owned of hers was hers when she married. only if she married within 6 months of the day he died. Otherwise, she was penniless. The letter from the matchmaker was real. So was this train, taking her away from Lawrence, Kansas, the only home she'd ever known. Jasmine Rose Hammond touched Miracle's shoulder with a genuine concern, then rubbed her hand over Dumpling's ears. Good boy. Miracle and these 9 other girls were going to Bent, Colorado. They were all brides to match. But Miracle felt isolated, as always, because of one stark difference. Completely and totally deaf since the age of 3 from scarlet fever, she eventually stood out in a crowd. Not hard of hearing like old folks who sat at the front pew of the church so they could hear the pastor. She had 100% hearing loss, but could read lips expertly. She was the only bride to match who had a dog with her also. But then again, she was the only one who needed a dog. Referred to as a companion dog, he was her ears. When Miracle had boarded the train in her hometown of Lawrence, Kansas, she spotted 9 girls clustered together. Somehow she knew they were brides to match, just like her. She made her way to the 4 benches and sat with them. Instincts simply drew them together. Their mysterious Miss Viola, who had summoned them, knew what she was doing. The fact that their train tickets put them all in the same passenger car was evidence of Miss Viola's expert planning. Relationships were bound to meld on some level. Miracle had no interest in being matched with a husband, and even less expectations that she'd form a lifelong friendship. Her papa had forced her to do this. Guilt rolled in her gut. She always trusted her papa until now. Maybe this new life, new town, would prove to be a good change. She certainly needed to be willing to give it a chance. What other choice did she have, really? Jasmine cozied up to Miracle the minute they boarded. She took Miracle's hand. Come, let us go get some tea. A few of the brides' faces expressed concern. Others looked as though they didn't appreciate being disturbed by Miracle's outburst. Bertha Langston, who preferred to be called Bert of all things, looked placid, but Miracle sensed it had nothing to do with her or Dumpling. Jasmine and Miracle scooted out of the bench seat and walked, with Dumpling trailing behind them. Single file through 3 passenger cars, Jasmine tripped at all 3 entrances between platforms. Miracle considered taking her elbow at the next platform, but moved closer to her instead, prepared to catch her arm before she completely fell down. Miracle observed but ignored the reactions of the other passengers when Dumpling appeared behind her skirt on the way to the dining car. Some smiled, others looked repulsed. She couldn't care less. Dumpling's presence was her business and not theirs. Jasmine turned her head to speak over her shoulder as they walked along, but Miracle couldn't see her lips well enough to know what she was going on about. What little she knew of Jasmine, it was probably just chitter-chatter about nothing important. They sat at a narrow table for 2, facing each other. Rain pelted the large windows that framed every booth. Miracle stared at the dirty water drops streaking sideways by the forward motion of the train and shoved her unruly ringlets back from her eyes. An obscure landscape of alternating yellow wheat and green cornfields rushed by. Her own tears covered her cheeks like the glass beside her. She sniffed and turned to the kind friend she had met just a few hours ago. Jasmine spoke to a waiter wearing a uniform similar to a fancy restaurant. Crisp white shirt, snug black waistcoat, black pants, and polished boots. He nodded and moved away. What had she ordered? It didn't matter. Jasmine laid her hand on Miracle's. It'll be all right. You'll see. Miracle tried to smile. She wanted to talk about everything she was feeling. Her world had been turned upside down in a matter of a few months. This young lady, hardly more than Miracle's age, was kind. She talked a lot and had befriended Miracle immediately. And I lost lost my spot. Immediately after boarding the train, she hadn't shied away when Miracle risked speaking. Her monotone voice generally made people look away, as if she were suddenly hideous. Being difficult was easy to hide until she spoke. Then people knew. Few accepted her after they knew. The waiter laid down a cloth and set a sturdy tea set on it. Jasmine thanked him and poured them both a cup. The first cup rolled slightly and spilled tea into the saucer. Jasmine fumbled it back upright. Oops. Miracle accepted the next cup and sauce and then added a cube of sugar and a splash of milk. She slipped a tea biscuit to Dumplin' and rubbed his head. He lowered his bottom to the floor and then his head across his front paws.
All right, we'll be right back with more of this excerpt from Heard the Music by Lynn Donovan.
Heard of the 3 times around. Customers have told us that's the fewest number of times they need to go around are from the Heart Gift Shop before they even come close to seeing everything. Walk around only once or twice, I guarantee there's something you'll miss. Do you know what else customers tell us? Every time they come in, there's something new. So come try a 3 times around and then come back and try it again. Only then will you know why customers love our From the Heart Gift Shop at St. Thomas More.
Hello, I'm Jenny Gatsky, Realtor with the Gatsky Homes team at HomeSmart Preferred Realty. If you or someone you know is thinking about buying a home, selling a home, or investing in real estate, please contact us for a free buyer's consultation or home valuation. You can reach us at 719-458-9559 through our website at GatskyHomes.com, on Facebook, or stop by the office at 501 Royal Gorge Boulevard on the northeast corner of Highway 50 and 5th Street in downtown Canyon City. Thank you. This is Jenny Gatsky, your neighbor, your realtor.
One of the fears about hospice that patients report is they would have to give up their primary doctor. Fremont Regional Hospice understands the importance of patient-doctor relationships. That's why patients are encouraged to keep their primary care physician when they admit to our hospice. While our medical director is available to help with pain and symptom management, each patient has the right to choose if they want to continue with their doctor. If you have questions about how Fremont Regional Hospice can help you, call 275-4315 or come by 1439 Main Street in Canyon City. Fremont Regional Hospice, your hometown hospice.
KRLN weather, sunny, warm, and breezy today. The high around 85. Mostly cloudy and cooler tonight. 30% chance of showers, the low near 46. Cloudy and cooler tomorrow. 60% chance of afternoon storms, a high around 73. 87 yesterday's high with a low of 45 this morning, where we recorded a trace of rain. Now from the weather station, 72 degrees.
Radio 1400 KRLN.
Welcome back to Right Time Radio. You're listening to Lynn Donovan's Heard the Music, reaching number 18 on the Sweet and Wholesome Romance list on Amazon.
Tell me, Jasmine curled her small hand under her chin. Her elbow slipped from the edge of the table and she jerked to regain her composure. What makes you cry so? Miracle sipped her tea and gently placed the cup in the saucer. My papa died of consumption. Jasmine grimaced. Miracle knew that meant she was speaking too loud, and she reduced the effort of which she projected her voice. Just a few weeks ago, I learned I was coming here the day he was buried. Miracle lifted her eyes to the ornate ceiling thoughtfully. What time is it? 5 o'clock. Jasmine sipped her tea and delicately nibbled a biscuit. 5 o'clock. I've been on this train 3 hours. The grass has barely begun to grow over my papa's grave. She drew in a ragged breath. I miss him so much already. Jasmine covered Miracle's hand with hers. I understand. Jasmine went on to tell Miracle her own story, why she was going to Bent to marry. She grew up in a mining town, Noel, Colorado, the daughter of Reverend Chase Hammond. Her mother, Felicity, actively spoke out as for women's suffrage. Jasmine was so many times told not to speak, be quiet. Children are meant to be seen, not heard. That now that she was on her own, she talked freely. Boy, did she talk freely. Miracle caught parts of her story when she kept her eyes on Jasmine's pretty pink lips, but her attention went back to the rain on the window and the water-blurred expansion farmland. The day her papa died, everything seemed to happen all at once. The banker's news, Pastor Chambers' tender attempts to help her understand the good Lord has other plans for her papa. She hadn't meant to scream at him when she said, "Stop, leave me alone." She was miserable, and all she wanted was to be by herself, just her and Dumplin'. She didn't want to think about this dowry Papa had left for her. He had attached such a life-changing condition to it. Those conditions forced her to care about the money. He knew her so well. That was why he'd set this condition to his will. He knew without him she wouldn't care about the money, just as he had not cared about it. She'd lived her life as best she could, and she'd be alone. Papa used his life savings to force her to seek a husband. The conditions would leave her a pauper if she didn't obey his final wishes for her. Somehow, she had to accept her new circumstances. Papa had been a tinkerer. Besides his occupation as a clocksmith, a piano tuner, his tinkering had inadvertently made him a fortune. By tinkering with the tools of his trade to improve their design, he made marketable new tools that became sought after by others in the same line of work. His professor friends at the University of Kansas encouraged him to file patents for his redesigns. It became a residual income for him, building while they slept, so to speak. He was a humble man. The money was more of an embarrassment to Papa. It wasn't important, not really. So why did he taunt her with it now? He taught her the value of family and loved ones over money. Her limitations due to deafness had concerned him so much that he went to the animal studies department. He had an idea to help her to be independent as anyone else. He talked at length with the professors about training a companionable animal, such as a dog, to hear for her. They took a runt from a litter born in the lab and worked with him to be aware of his surroundings and to signal a person when certain things happened. Her companion dog had been a surprise gift on her 8th birthday. Together with the professors and Papa, Miracle learned the dog's posturing signals and what they meant. He alerted her to important sounds: a knock at the door, someone speaking her name, the cock crowing at the morning, mostly of moving objects that she didn't hear but could hurt her. The runt had learned quickly, and when Papa gave him to her, she cried with joy. These were the things Papa taught her to value, not some obscure amount of money buried in a bank vault. She had named him Dumplin' because his color and small size, curled up in Papa's hands, he looked like a golden dumpling. He had allowed her to function normally away from her Papa. He was her only family now. The train jostled and Miracle swayed in her seat. Another jarring motion pressed everyone into the dining car towards the front of the train until it stopped, rocking into place. Why had the train stopped so abruptly? Miracle turned back to her friend. Jasmine's eyes were round as her gaze remained fixed on some men outside of the train. "Look!" Jasmine scooted closer to the window, sliding it open for a clearer view. Rain pelted her face. She jumped back, covering her nose with her hand. Miracle could not see her mouth. Miracle glanced through the open window. She was in a wrong angle to see what Jasmine could see. Miracle turned back to Jasmine. "Are arguing," Jasmine giggled. "I wonder what it's about. Seems to be important enough to stop the whole train and step outside." She leaned closer to Miracle. "You suppose it's some lover spat and a husband that came to claim his wife from a lurid affair?" Jasmine's shoulder rose toward her ears. "How scandalous!" But her face didn't express scandal, more like glee. Miracle smiled at her friend. Jasmine obviously read a lot of books too, like Helena. She romanticized everything. Oh, Jasmine slammed the window closed. That angry man looked right at me. You suppose he could see me through the cars? Miracle shrugged and turned to the window. The men were gone. She felt guilty about paying better attention to Jasmine than she shared. She felt guilty for not paying better attention to Jasmine while she shared her life story. Jasmine didn't seem to mind that Miracle looked away while she rattled on. Perhaps she had not yet realized that when Miracle wasn't looking at her mouth, she wasn't listening. A steward rushed up into the dining car. Dumplin rose on his hind legs but didn't stand. Miracle laid her hand on his head and felt a low growl emanating from him. The steward scanned the passengers, then dropped his eyes to the dog. He looked troubled or scared. Everything all right in here? He called out to no one in particular. No one expressed any concern other than to ask why the train had stopped. He said nothing more and continued straight through, exiting the other side. Curious. Miracle turned her attention back to her thoughts about her situation. A husband. Hadn't she always figured she'd have a husband someday and a family? Papa would have been a wonderful grandpa. She smiled at that thought. Her eyes landed on her new friend. The girl was clumsy but sweet. It was comforting to be with Jasmine, even if she wasn't absorbing every word she uttered. Miracle got the gist of what Jasmine had to say. Surely that was enough, because the girl had a lot to say. So, how did it happen? Jasmine sipped her tea, and while she waited for Miracle to reply, Miracle blinked. What had she missed? Was Jasmine asking her about the men who had stopped the train? Her papa's illness? She had no idea and didn't want to say anything. How did what happen? Jasmine's lips pressed into a thin line. She looked nervous, like she'd overstepped the boundaries of propriety. How did you lose your hearing?
Thank you, Lynn.
You're
and
welcome.
to find out how she lost her hearing, you're going to have to go to Amazon and buy Heard the Music by Lynn Donovan.
Yeah, for only $2.99.
Yeah, there you go. Great book. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
All right, as we wrap up today, just want to remind y'all, if you have got something you go, Ma, I've written this and it's been in this box, and should I share it with somebody? Share it with us.
Share it with us.
So
please.
write to Tom and Lynn and at righttimeradio@gmail.com. That's WRITE, righttimeradio@gmail.com. We've got just a few seconds left before we close our show. Want to thank Lisa McCarter over at the she runs the Florence Chamber of Commerce office, and she just texted us and said she was enjoying the show today.
Cool.
So that's really fun, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa.
Yes, thanks, and thanks for doing such a great job over there. So. Our two guests today, one's not a guest. She'll be back next week, Miss Lynn Donovan.
Yes, sir, I will.
So that's thank you, Lynn, for reading. And then Sandy, thanks for being on our show today.
Thanks for having me.
Great
Are you
to
going to
see
have
you
me
again.
Yes. As a matter of fact, that's what I was just going to mention. Are you just prompting me?
I am
Yes.
I'm getting the hang of
I
it.
have it written down right here. Sandy will be back in November with another military type of a reading, and we'll give you more on that as we get closer to it. So thanks, everybody, for listening to Right Time Radio. I'm Tom Bruno.
And I'm Lynn Donovan.
And thanks, Sandy, for being on the show. And thank you, Carrie, for always running the show.
Yes.
You're welcome.
You do an excellent
We'll see you
job.
next week, 10 o'clock, Friday morning.
All
See
right.
you next week.
And Right Time Radio, of course, is brought to you each week by Fremont Regional Hospice. And if you'd like to sponsor the show, give us a call right here at the radio station. Thanks for listening today. This is Right Time Radio, heard every Friday from 10 to 11 on 1400 KRLN.